Conference will now be recorded.
Small details. When I get your timer ready. You couldn't hear.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order this Wednesday, March 4th, 2026 meeting of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners. I'd like to note for the record that all 5 commissioners are present in person this evening. If you would all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to note that all public sessions of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners are electronically recorded, filed, and posted to the Township website for public access. At this time, I'd like to ask our Township Manager, Tom Petrucci, to please review our public virtual meeting rules.
Thank you. The public virtual meeting rules are as follows. Courtesy of the floor for non-agenda items will be at the beginning and end of the agenda. Public comment will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. For all listed agenda items, the board president will call for courtesy of the floor prior to the Board of Commissioners taking action on that specific agenda item. For in-person attendees, please raise your hand to be recognized, then move to the podium when directed. You will be asked to state your name and address for the record, and then you may proceed with asking your question. For those participating virtually, please mute your microphone or telephone to avoid any background noise that may cause interference during the meeting. The chat box feature will be active throughout the meeting. If you have a comment or question, please type your full name and address into the chat box. The staff member monitoring GoToMeeting will then unmute your microphone and you will have the opportunity to comment or ask a question. The meeting packet with all meeting materials to be reviewed by the board for tonight's meeting was posted on the Township website this past Friday afternoon and was available on the Township website under the Events and Agendas section. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to announce that the Board of Commissioners did meet in executive session prior to this evening's March 4th, 2026 meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. Agenda item 4, courtesy of the floor. This is the first of 2 opportunities during the meeting for members of the public to comment on any non-agenda items. When I do call for public comment, if you would please raise your hand, I will direct you to the podium. Please state your name and address, and you may then proceed with your 5 minutes. Are there any members of the public in person tonight who wish to address the board? I saw you, ma'am, first. If you may please stand and approach the podium. Please make sure the microphone is on. Herb, if we could make sure it's on for her.
Oh, thank you.
Ma'am, if I could just get your name and address before.
My name is Julie Thomasis. My address is 4127 Shoemaker Place in South Whitehall.
Thank you.
Should I just start?
Absolutely. It's your time.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to talk about the proposed data center. The application for the data center, as it was submitted, appears to have some significant deficiencies. There are gaps in the ordinance that may have serious negative consequences in the design and operation of the center. I am not against data centers, and I know that AI is transforming the way we live and work. That being said, this may not be the most appropriate location. I am concerned about the structural integrity of this project. Much of the proposed location is underlain by karst, which is formed when limestone-like bedrock is dissolved by the natural underground flow of water. As I'm sure you all know, karst is a landscape formed when rainwater absorbs carbon dioxide, creating a weak acid that dissolves limestone and other soluble rocks. Over time, this process carves out caves, sinkholes, and underground drainage systems, leaving behind unstable ground. Structures built in karst regions may face foundation settlement, cracks, and structural risks due to hidden voids beneath the surface. Sudden collapse of sinkholes can cause significant infrastructure damage and endanger lives. The rugged terrain and unpredictable ground stability make construction challenging. Proper site assessments and foundation reinforcements can help mitigate these risks, but knowing the extent of these underground features is critical so that the building foundations can be designed to be secure. That requires a detailed geotechnical study, a soil boring at every load-bearing point, and point-specific designs for bearing walls, and since karst formations can vary so widely. Additional borings and study are required for locations of underground utilities. None of that work has been submitted yet. Will the township require this point-specific level of detail in the geotechnical study? And if not, why not?
Thank you, ma'am. We certainly appreciate your comments. I am going to ask staff if they would to either respond to your question or give an overview of the data center project. I will note, and I'll say it to any member of the public, the project atlas was scheduled to be on the February Planning Commission meeting. The applicant pulled that project from that agenda. However, I believe the documents are still publicly posted. Township staff did an incredible job. They were very diligent. They put together a comment letter, which includes all of the ways that the project must be changed or recommendations. That comment letter is 101 pages long. I highly recommend the township read it. It is an incredible document, and the credit goes to our staff for putting that together. But I would like to ask somebody from staff if they could respond to Ms. Thomas's question or give an overview of the very rigorous land development review process in general.
In general terms, the geotech review is handled by our geotechnical engineer, which is Hanover Engineering. They review geotech studies that are provided. If they require more information, they'll ask for that information. So any comments that are in that geotech letter need to be addressed to his satisfaction, and he always comments on karst. And there's ways to mitigate that, just like he mentioned. So that's incorporated into the geotech review.
And so does that review say that they will do what they have to do to address it?
So with all land developments, the conditions of approval include addressing the comments of our professional reviews. So there'll be a condition of approval that says must address conditions of the geotech letter dated so and so and so. So that way they get the approval, they can work through the details, and they won't be able to record the plan and start work until those comments are addressed.
And we'll be able to see those final comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll all be in the memo packets, which is, this one was a little big, as Jacob alluded to. It's 101 pages, so we had to split it up a little bit. But the memo packets are in, they're bookmarked, they're hopefully user-friendly.
And at a time when, if this does come back on an agenda for the Planning Commission or any of our other advisory boards, particularly with the Planning Commission, all the documents are posted multiple days in advance. So I would encourage members of the public to keep an eye out for those. And of course, the township always will communicate what's forthcoming on agendas as well. Typically, we announce at one Planning Commission meeting what's going to be on the following month's agenda. So there will be more than adequate notice for residents who may have questions. And you're certainly welcome to contact the board or staff anytime. We really appreciate your questions.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am. If you could just provide your name and address for me, please.
Hi, my name's Alice Lenthy, and my address is 4126 Shoemaker Place. I also want to speak about the data center. I have reviewed the 101-page document. It has a lot of good information in it. I do think and it's noted in there that there are things that are still missing that you're waiting on from the applicant, which I understand. My biggest concern tonight is water and wastewater, particularly sanitary wastewater. The project proposes the use of sand mounds to treat sanitary sewage. Sand mounds are generally not recommended in regions that are underlain by karst, as is the case with the proposed site. Partially treated sanitary sewage could flow directly through the cracks and fissures in the karst into groundwater and wells. The applicant has requested a waiver from the township requirement to include a sewage disposal system report as part of their preliminary plan submission, because they have not yet completed the testing required to design a functioning and safe sand mound system. We strongly oppose granting this waiver. The township and I need to know if the site conditions are suitable for sand mounds before any further progress is made on this project. And if it turns out that the proposed locations will support sand mounds, then where are the backup locations for new sand mounds when the initial ones reach the end of their useful lifetime, which is 10 to 20 year span typically? These locations need to be delineated now, tested now as part of the permitting process. I want to talk a little bit about water, fresh water. Data centers use a lot of water. Lehigh County was recently put under a drought warning by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. So water is a particularly precious commodity here. Simply put, how much water will this data center use as designed? And more importantly, if the proposed air cooling system is found to be ineffective in practice, how much water would be used by a modified cooling system? What is the source of that water? How does that volume compare with the current water usage in South Whitehall Township? What is the impact of that additional use on the water supply in South Whitehall Township and in Lehigh County? The applicant should be required to model a completely water-dependent cooling system and its impacts during periods of drought. Finally, what is the township's regulatory process in the event the applicant or a subsequent owner does indeed want to switch from air cooling to a more water-intensive form of cooling? What are the consequences to the applicant if they ignore this process and just proceed with modifications to the data center cooling system?
Thank you. Again, I'll ask Dave. I'm sure Dave has an answer. And by the way, before I turn it over to Dave, the public comments that you both have made and that others will make are very critical. Much of what went into the township's initial review letter was resident-generated comments. How will the township address X? How will the township address things like sand mounds? So I'm, the feedback the Board of Commissioners receives tonight and via email at all times definitely does factor into future staff reviews. So I want to thank you for raising issues that maybe we haven't thought of directly, or maybe staff has or others have. But I'd like to ask Dave if you could please answer Lengthy's questions.
With regard to the wastewater disposal, the volumes that they're proposing are obviously over an individual septic, so they're handled through DEP, but our geotech is also involved in that process. So he's looking at karst features, and that's part of his process, and it's also part of the DEP process. The water versus air cooled, again, going back to conditions of approval is where we can put in a condition, and I don't have the exact language at this point, a condition that says it shall be air cooled. And if it's water cooled, they essentially have to come back and get that resolution modified. And to modify that resolution, they would have to go through these burdens of proof and why it's justifiable. So that's when we could require all of that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for hearing my words.
Time. Any other members of the public who wish to address? Yes, ma'am. You could please provide your name and address, and then you may begin.
Sure. I'm Mary Hess. I'm representing Photos of Lehigh Valley. So I'm the principal photographer and editor of that site, just based on Facebook, among other locations. So the main reason I'm here tonight is to just advocate for the preservation and restoration of the Bloomer Farm along Iron Bridge Road. It's a historically significant site. It's a homestead and the barn of Reverend Bloomer, who is a major role player in protecting the Liberty Bell. He actually hid the Liberty Bell in the church downtown in Allentown, and this is his homestead. So I wanted to put forth this as a subject to be discussed at a later date on agenda and talk about how that might happen.
Well, thank you, ma'am. We certainly appreciate that. I will say the township has been working diligently to assess and ultimately come up with plans to protect a lot of the historic resources in the township, the Bloomer Barn and Farm being a chief priority given its historic nature. So I want to thank you for your continued advocacy, and I will ask staff to please keep in touch. And if you can establish an open line of communication with Chris or Dave, they've been handling a lot of this, so I'm sure that would go a long way.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. Is there anybody else here? Yes, ma'am. Your name and address.
Hi, I'm Karen Castaldo, and I live at 4016 Dauber Drive in South Whitehall Township. Thank you for allowing me to share concerns with you regarding the new data center, specifically the electric power demand. Will South Whitehall Township work with Atlas to comply with the governor's responsible infrastructure development principle of bring your own electricity? And if not, why not? Data centers use an enormous amount of electricity, and the supply for this one would come from the PJM interconnection. The grid, however, is already struggling, and they're struggling to generate enough power sufficient in its service area, even without the data center. And it has predicted potential shortfall of electric power by the summer of 2027. The PJM service area includes the Northern Virginia /DC Metro DC area, which already contains the largest concentration of data centers in the world. Where is all the energy to power this proposed data center going to come from, and what will be the impact on our local residents? Will there be new high voltage lines, installed along Cedar Crest Boulevard or Mock Chunk Road? And if so, will there be sufficient land for widening the easement that those high voltage lines might require? Will there be rolling brownouts because of the heightened power demands the data center requires? Will an increase in the price of electricity be likely because of the data center? Is it likely that there will be restarting of mothballed fossil fuel plants that will create additional pollution? I realize you cannot answer all these questions tonight, but this is an enormous concern, not only for the residents of South Whitehall Township, but also for the entire Lehigh Valley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And your concerns are noted by at least myself and our staff as well, so they will certainly be on our minds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am, in the front row. Your name and address, please.
My name is Jet Sarachek, and I'm on Emerald Drive, 1906 Emerald Drive in Orfield. And thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm going to speak about emergency generator equipment. I understand the need for emergency generators to ensure the data center can remain operational in the event of power shortage. Based on the available information, I assume that these will be diesel fuel generators. I have multiple concerns regarding the generators, their operation, and their impact on the community. The preliminary plan does not specify the number of emergency generators to be installed. How many will there be? And please confirm the fuel they will be using, as I think that's an important piece. Assuming the generators will be diesel fueled, how much fuel will be stored on site and where? There are no indication of storage tank locations on the preliminary plans. Are the tanks above ground or below? What precautions against spills will be incorporated into the design of the tanks, associated piping, and buildings themselves? How often does the applicant expect there will be fuel deliveries? Will the spill prevention control and countermeasure plan be available for public review as part of the permitting process? The initial proposal calls for Tier 2 generators, although Tier 3 and 4 generators provide far superior emissions reduction. I understand that EPA does not require Tier 4 models for emergency generator installations, but that the authority having jurisdiction can impose the requirement. Will South Whitehall Township require the installation of Tier 3 or even Tier 4 generators in the data center? And if not, why? Why not? Has the applicant considered the use of natural gas or propane fuel generators instead of diesel? The applicant should be required to complete dispersion modeling of the generator emissions during testing and extended operation scenarios. And thank you for hearing my words.
Thank you very much. And we have your questions, so we'll be sure to look into that. Thank you very much. Anyone else? I'll just keep going in the row here and then make my way through. Yes, ma'am. Easier to do it in an orderly way.
Okay. My name is Marsha Armstrong. I live at 4043 Daubert in South Whitehall. And I want to address noise levels. Talk about the generators here and talk about the noise levels there. The PERT ordinance specifies a limit of 57 decibels at the property line calculated on a 24-hour average during normal operations. However, impulsive noise from routine maintenance or emergency situations is specifically excluded from this requirement. Routine maintenance includes backup generator testing, which is to occur on weekdays, excluding holidays between the hours of 9 and 5, and up to 25% of the backup generators can be tested at one time. Considering the number of backup generators that will be required for the data center, the noise level from the testing will be significantly higher than the specified 57 decibels. On an instantaneous basis, I have the following questions. How many emergency generators will be installed? How often will these generators be tested? And for how long each time? Weekly? Monthly? What would the noise level be when all of the backup generators are running simultaneously, as would occur in the event of a power outage? The plans submitted indicate an acoustic wall. How much of the generator noise will be attenuated by that wall during testing and when all are running? The PERT ordinance, furthermore, requires the applicant to identify noise-sensitive populations within 500 feet of the property line. What will the applicant be required to do to protect these noise-sensitive populations? That is not specifically addressed in the ordinance. When will the required pre-construction noise study be submitted, and will that study compute the noise level from impulsive noise situations? According to the ordinance, it should have been part of the land development application. If there are fans on the building roofs, will there be sound insulation around them? And finally, vibration is a byproduct of noise. Residents near large data centers have reported significant vibrations in their homes. How will Atlas be required to determine if vibration could be an issue and to address that issue? If vibration becomes an issue after the completion of the data center, what will South Whitehall Township do to hold Atlas responsible for mitigation? Thank you very much for listening to our
Thank you very much.
concerns.
Thank you for your questions. I'll continue. Anyone else in the first row? Yes, sir.
Jed Levick, 4107 Grace Virginia Court, South Whitehall Township. I'd also like to address some comments and questions about the data center. First of all, I'm a strong supporter and beneficiary of the Woodlawn Volunteer Fire Department. I'm concerned about how the data center will impact services that I rely upon and we rely upon from the Woodlawn Volunteer Fire Department. I suspect that emergency response requirements for data centers are extensive and unique, and that first responders will need specialized personal protective equipment and training to respond to any incident that would occur at the data center. The costs associated with the training, drills, emergency services should be borne by the data center management, not the supporters of the local volunteer responders like myself and many other people in this room. Several questions. Has Atlas committed to covering these types of costs? I most certainly hope that it will be the case. If not, will the township insist that these expenses are to be paid by Atlas or the management? So hopefully these and some of the other questions will continue to be addressed by the team over here and the team within the township so that we can have a satisfactory resolution to the data center issue.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your perspective as a volunteer. I appreciate it. Next, starting on the end with you, ma'am. If you'd like to, could we get her one of our mobile microphones? We just need to hear you for the folks that are online.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Catherine Novelgratz, and my address is 1728 Main Street, Northampton, PA. And I'm here to go off of that young lady's information about saving the Bloomer farm. We're Bloomer descendants, and he spent a lot of time in South Whitehall Township. In fact, the majority of his life was here at the Jordan Church. Of course, he was in Allentown, which was Northampton Town, and of course at the farm. So I hope that the township can put aside resources and save this precious area, because we venerate places like the steel downtown and the cement mills in Northampton, but we sometimes neglect our own heritage, which is very strong in pre-Revolutionary War. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am. And I would recommend too, on the township website, contacting our community development staff. There's been a renewed focus on historic preservation and on treasuring what we have in this community. And since you are descendants of Reverend Bloomer, I think the township staff would appreciate if you would make that contact, and we'd be happy to be in touch with you to learn more about your family's history. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the second row? Yes, sir.
My name is John Castalda. I'm 4016 Dalbert Drive in South Whitehall. And I want to thank the commissioners for allowing me to speak about the data center. But I also want to commend you on the 101-page document that you have online, which was incredibly thoroughly researched, detailed, and provided a great amount of information about questions on the data center. So it was very impressive. Thank you. I'd like to ask some questions. There is a considerable potential for lawsuits to arise from the construction or operation of the data center facility. For example, neighbors may sue for damages to their property, excess noise, or the loss of business. What costs might South Whitehall Township incur with legal fees, judgments, damages in relation to those suits? Will South Whitehall Township need to procure additional insurance, more than its current policies, to protect themselves from these potential suits? Will Atlas provide a cash bond to cover these potential expenses? If the data center is sold to another entity and construction errors, building damages discovered such that Atlas is sued to recoup the cost of repairs, would South Whitehall Township and its engineers be liable for the damages? If so, would South Whitehall Township's current or planned insurance have adequate coverage for those circumstances? How much liability insurance will Atlas and construction contractors be required to carry? Will it cover potential damages to township property, PPL property, and most importantly, neighboring properties? Will Atlas post a performance bond for the construction period? And if so, how much will the bond cover? And what will be the terms for the release of the bond? Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate your comments. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
The data center. My name's Dan Pereski, 4127 Shoemaker Place in South Whitehall. And so the people who have talked so far have been talking about water, noise, vibrations, energy, a host of things, liability. I'm a strong proponent of data centers because I use, and we probably all of us use, artificial intelligence on a daily basis, and we're going to be using a lot more of it, and you can't get it currently without having data centers. Our concern is that they're done well, that they're done right, and that the neighborhood is protected, and we don't come back later and say, boy, we overlooked something, and we should have, and all this, looking backwards. So I want to address a different concern, though, right now, and that is the engagement with the public. And this has been a big problem in other communities. And just on the front page of this morning's paper, they talk about Lower Mount Bethel being overwhelmed with people who are concerned about the data center. And that can get out of hand, and it can take all night. And they had to close out that meeting and open up a different one on a different day. And that's happening. There's articles about people, uprisings about data centers all over the valley and all over the country. And you guys have done so much good research and planning on this. I'm thinking it's really important to make sure that the public is aware of it, and that the public has access to it, and that the public has opportunity to be able to ask questions like we are and get responses. So, for example, let me just see what I would also had here. Okay. So suggestion would be to have a separate section of the website devoted to this, so that we don't have to. I tried looking, and eventually I found, but it took me like a half an hour to find this document and then find that document. And this is going to be such a major concern of the public that I think it's worthwhile to invest in having a separate section of the website that lists the documents, obviously, lists the questions, has a little brief explanation. Why this doc? What's a PERT? What's the difference between this doc? Why is this one coming from the county? Which one? Why is this one coming down from the Planning Commission? What role does the Planning Commission have? Okay, that type of thing. But then also these questions, for example, are they going to be posted individually that we've asked tonight and have responses to, and in what format and in what time frame? These are things that can be done if you want to avoid the kinds of problems, and out of respect and concern for yourselves and for the community. The primarily for us, the frustration of not knowing what the timeline is going to be. What happens in what order, and in what place, and at what time is there still opportunity to make changes? You've heard about some of the concerns tonight, and something may come up, and they did a report, and then another engineer does another report and finds that the first report is deficient in such and such a way. And, between the state and the county and the municipality and their own, at what point does the township, I guess you are the only ones that can say stop. Am I right? You're the only ones that can say stop? Or is it also the county can't, from what I understand? Are you the only ones that can say, wait a second here, you can't proceed until this is answered?
So there's a number of things, and I don't know if staff wants to handle this. I will know before David goes any further, the township recently started an e-newsletter that individuals can sign up for via email. Some of these things were addressed. Obviously, we can address them in the future by different means, but I'd like to ask Dave to sort of go over what the process looks like, because with a project like this, there are multiple steps along the way where issues can be raised and addressed before it even gets to
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Where is that going to be outlined, and at what point will we be notified?
So it's kind of like the larger land development process. And what it is the applications get submitted for the Planning Commission, goes through a round of reviews. The applicant then has an opportunity to address those reviews, revise their plan, come back, answer any of the questions that are in there would be in the new submittal. So I envision the questions that we asked in that 101 pages will be answered in their new resubmission. And a lot of these questions are embedded in those reviews and should be answered through that resubmission. During a resubmission, we also have an opportunity to raise additional issues that may have come up. There's some questions here that have been brought up tonight that are probably going to be addressed in that resubmission. And that's kind of the back and forth process going through the Planning Commission. Ultimately, the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for approval or denial. And then it comes to the Board of Commissioners for a vote to approve or deny. And then like the real work happens because they have to address all the conditions of approval prior to recording a plan. And then once they record the plan is when they can start construction. So there's multiple levels of back and forth. Most of that back and forth is on the professional side through the reviews. And really what we're doing, and we've been paying attention to the meetings with the LVPC for months, and we're keeping a tally of all these questions and topics and making sure we incorporate those into the reviews so that when the applicant eventually shows up, they hopefully have those answers. And if they don't have adequate answers to our questions, we can ask for more information. We can recommend a denial because of that. So there's a lot of opportunity for that back and forth, right? But again, the other thing that we have is important to remember is we have to function within the lens of the regulations and the rules. So the municipality's planning code and our ordinance are really what governs what we can and can't require.
You explained it very well, but we're just a few people out of a township of thousands who are going to eventually be really concerned.
Yes.
Is that what you've just laid out, the timeline, what can be done at what stage in the process?
So
that's what I'm suggesting, maybe on your...
Yeah, and the township will continue to brainstorm better ways to get the message out. I think for you folks, and yeah.
I would like to add, if you check out our most recent e-newsletter, we actually did articulate a lot of the processes, like where our authority lies from and so forth. And I also want to add, Dave did a great job of articulating our local process. You also asked about external agencies, so like the county, the state. This project is such a voluminous project, it will require other external agency reviews. So the county conservation district, Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, and so forth. So whether it's for stormwater, air quality, PennDOT for any required, right, exactly. So we have exclusive purview and authority over our local ordinances, but there are also regulations that this project will fall under that we have no say over, and specifically PPL, energy matters. We are preempted by the state and by the PUC. So I just want to call that out.
I would say, sir, for your purposes, for the other residents who are here tonight, and for any other residents, and we'll try to get this message out. The main opportunity for you all to continue providing feedback and keeping tabs on this are the Planning Commission meetings. Those are all once a month on a Thursday. That is typically as this project evolves and comes back for changes or what have you. That is where it is typically first addressed. There's always an opportunity for public comment at those meetings. And like I said, typically at any given Planning Commission meeting, the agenda items for the following month's Planning Commission meetings are announced. So there's typically about a month's notice of when it's going to be on the agenda. But that is really the first and best opportunity as this proceeds for members of the public to comment. Oftentimes, the Planning Commission will take certain projects under advisement. They will not make a recommendation to the board whatsoever. The discussion may span 3 or 4 or even more Planning Commission meetings. So those are that specific monthly meeting. For a simple answer for you all is focus on that meeting, keep an eye on that agenda. The township will brainstorm to figure out better ways to get that information out there. But that is really the starting point.
So we can take the same presentation questions that we had tonight and bring them to the
Absolutely.
planning.
Absolutely. And more so if you see fit. That is really the first of many opportunities you will have.
Just
Do I have half a minute left?
Yes. Of course.
I have something else I was given to say.
Sure.
All right. So the PERT overlay ordinance requires the applicant to complete a community and environmental impact statement. If there are findings of significant impact on the community and/or the environment, will the applicant be required to mitigate the predicated impacts? An important example concerns the possible negative impacts of high voltage line girder towers on local property values. Will Atlas be required to reimburse local homeowners for the loss in the value of their homes? That's not one that I expect you're going to be able to answer, but I wanted to get it on the record,
Thank you, sir.
or I have trouble at home. Okay.
Thank you, sir. And I prefaced my response to the question that Mrs. Thomas has asked by recommending you all read the documents online. You obviously are a very well educated and informed group, and in any complex matter like this, that is a key ingredient. So I want to thank you all who came and spoke out about this tonight. Continue to inform yourselves and be the advocates that you've already been, and we really appreciate your feedback.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
And
I want to
you,
give you a copy.
Absolutely. Thank you. This will go to staff then. Perfectly. Thank you. Yes, any other public comments? Sir, if you'd like to come forward at this time.
So my name is Craig Sussman. I live at 3010 Victoria Lane. I wanted to clarify a statement that the chair made earlier in the meeting. You said that the application was pulled by the developer. Was the application actually pulled and it is no longer an active application on the records, or did the township extend an extension to the developer for that?
No, and Dave,
The application is still pending. So they grant an extension of time to the township, which right now it runs through May. I believe it's May 15th.
May 15th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The majority of my comments relate specifically to the noise. I know there was another commenter that was talking about that. I've been through the documentation, the assessment studies that were posted by the township engineers and the consulting firms. I want to take exception to the noise study and specify for the record that I believe it is incomplete as delivered by Kimley Horn. The consulting firm only measured background noise at 2 locations, LT1, which is on Orfield Road, and LT2, which is on Cedar Crest, across the street from Parkland High School, both on the west side of the property. There was no measurement on the longest side of the property, running on Mock Chunk Road, along the property's eastern boundary. So that's a definite gap in their noise measuring. Relating to the noise levels, the PERT specifies a max continuous noise at 57 dBA. There is no stated limit for emergency generator operation. It's essentially unlimited by the PERT under the emergency situations clause, as are maintenance operations. There's simply no limit on that. They can be as loud as they want. Just to clarify, there were another speaker had asked about the number of diesel generators. There's 356 per the current plan. So if they fired up all those generators, you would not be able to hear yourself, you think. Just to bring the point, that is directly across the street from Parkland High School, right? To think about what even 25% of those generators are going to sound like running during school hours if there's a need to do that, right? It's both disruptive from a noise perspective. It's also exposing our students to the emissions from those generators, right? 356 generators running is essentially 27 747s, just to put that into context. The other issue is the PERT noise ordinance is based on the DBA weighting factor for noise, which is specifically for like OSHA-related noise for hearing damage protection. It's well documented that diesel generators and HVAC equipment concentrates the majority of its sound pressure in the low frequency and infrasound bands below 250 hertz, which is where the DBA curve rolls off and is significantly attenuated. Sound below 250 hertz is less attenuated by any sound mitigation walls. It also travels farther due to the longer wavelength. So the noise farther away from the data center is going to be at a higher level or a higher perceived level, listening at the or in the perceived noise range. Also, the site elevation plan. The foundation of the structures are currently going to be 20 feet above the maximum height of the earthen berm that's specified to run along the perimeter of the property as part of the noise mitigation plan. That's going to essentially nullify any effect that has along the Mock Chunk Road corridor. The entire data center sits above that level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sussin. Any other public comments? Yes, sir, if you could please come forward, give your name and address.
John Casper. I'm residing at 136 East Penn Ave. I'm actually in Albertus, but I work in South Whitehall Township. And just a couple of things came to mind. I'm more of an outside observer. I speak for some people who do live in South Whitehall Township. Kids go to Parkland, things like that. The comment about the website, that sounds brilliant. Also, you could integrate an AI chatbot in there. It's very easy to do. You can upload all of the documentation. People can ask questions, get responses instantly, be very informed, have highlights of what is the benefit of this. Because honestly, it sounds terrible. It really sounds like we're trying to ram this thing through. I don't mean to put any of your intentions in there, but it doesn't sound like we're trying to get this thing out of here. It sounds like we're trying to bring it in. And it just doesn't sound good for everything that I'm hearing. And those are just two comments. One about the chat bot, the website, that sounds great. The other thing is the whole thing just sounds terrible otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other members present who wish to address the board on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Chris Turner, 2530 Wimble Road. I was actually here with Mary Hess, and we were talking about the Bloomer Farm. I spoke with Sharon, and I've already talked with Chris. But also, I had a question about what the school boards, Parkland, what their opinion was on the data center. Obviously, it's right across from what does Parkland think?
The township has not received any formal communication. I did ensure they received a copy of the plans, however.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public who wish to address the board on non-agenda items? Any online, Chris? All right, thank you. Thank you to all the members of the public who came out tonight to speak during courtesy of the floor. Moving on to agenda item 5 minutes, the February 18th, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting minutes have been distributed to the board for their review. Are there any questions or comments from the board on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying, or is there a motion to approve? A motion from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second? A second from Commissioner Fellinger-Richter. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 6, presentations. 6A. We have a proclamation for Kenneth M. Nowitzki of the South Whitehall Township Zoning Hearing Board. Mr. Nowitzki was unable to make it tonight, but I would like to read the proclamation into the record for him. This is a Distinguished Service Award presented to Kenneth Nowitzki. The South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners, township staff, and citizens would like to recognize your 33 years of dedicated service to South Whitehall Township, beginning on February 3rd, 1993, when you began serving on the Fire Prevention Code Appeals Board. On October 1st, 2008, you began serving on the South Whitehall Township Zoning Hearing Board, where you served until February the 4th, 2026, for a total of 18 years, including several years as Secretary and Vice Chairman. We thank you for your longstanding commitment and dedicated service to our township. Therefore, it is with great pride and appreciation that the Board of Commissioners and Township staff hereby presents this expression of our gratitude to you, Kenneth Nowitzki. We are very grateful for everything that you have done to help make South Whitehall Township a wonderful place to live, work, and play. The board wishes you the very best in your future endeavors. Duly presented by the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners and Township staff this 4th day of March 2026 in lawful session duly assembled. Thank you, Ken, for your service to the Township. Moving on to agenda item 6B, we have the January 2026 financial review year-to-date report. I would like to ask Township Manager Tom Petrucci to please present.
Thank you. So the report that was included in the board packet this evening, of course, all the numbers are well under the budgetary thresholds. It's only January, so we're trending quite well the first month into the year. If there's any specific questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we still have a long way to go, in this fiscal year.
Thank you, Tom. And as always, all of our financial reports are posted to the Township website for public access. Any other questions on the January 2026 financial review? Seeing none, moving on to agenda item 6C, we have the Environmental Advisory Council annual report for the year 2025, and I'd like to ask our long-range planner, Chris Stroller, to please present.
Thank you, Commissioner Roth. Every year, at the beginning of the year, the Environmental Advisory Council submits a simplified report of their activities from the previous year to the Board of Commissioners. That report is in your packet. If there's any specific questions on that, I'd be happy to answer those. But if you'll note at the end of the report, it talks about goals for the upcoming year. The Environmental Advisory Council is now at its full capacity of 7 members. We're very happy to have the 2 new members on for this year. They are in the process of preparing a work plan for the upcoming 2026-2027 timeframe, and we'll be presenting that at a future Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you, Chris. There are no questions. Moving on to agenda item 7, ordinances. 7A, we have an ordinance of the Township of South Whitehall, County of Lehigh, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Part 1 Administrative Legislation, Chapter 58 Pensions, Article 2 Deferred Compensation Plan of the Codified Ordinances of South Whitehall Township to reestablish and restate the Deferred Compensation Plan and amend the plan document in use for said plan and providing for a repealer clause, severability clause, an effective date. And I would ask our Township Manager, Tom Petrucci, to please present this ordinance.
Thank you. So South Whitehall has maintained a 457B deferred compensation plan for its employees since its original adoption by ordinance number 553 in 1993. So most recently, the board adopted ordinance number 1085 in 2024, which amended and restated the plan in its entirety to ensure continued compliance with applicable provisions of the Internal Revenue Code. So recognizing that the township will move forward with, ensuring that we have compliance with the Internal Revenue Code, we've noted that additional federal statutory and regulatory changes have taken effect under Secure Act 2.0, so the Act of 2022. So requiring further amendments to governmental deferred compensation plans. So these changes include, among other items, so we have to add in a mandatory ROF treatment of certain catch-up contributions. And then also employees who are age 50 or older in the 2026 plan year and had more than $150,000 of FICA wages from their current employer in 2025 will be required to make any catch-up contributions on a ROF after-tax basis. So the ordinance before you this evening has been advertised. It's been sent to the Lehigh County Department of Law. It has an effective date of January 1st, 2026, and would be then codified into Chapter 58 accordingly.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any board questions or comments on this specific agenda item? Are there any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt said 457B ordinance?
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Granovsky. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 7B, we have an ordinance amending the codified ordinances of South Whitehall Township to add a new Article 12 to Chapter 336, Vehicles and Traffic, entitled Towing from Private Property, and providing for purpose, definitions, responsibilities of private property owner, responsibilities of tow truck operators, exemptions, and penalties with the following additional sections: severability, failure to enforce not a waiver, and effective date. And again, I would ask Tom Petrucci to please present.
Thank you. So it's in the public interest to create a uniform framework to establish and enforce towing procedures and standards for owners of private property as well as tow truck drivers and operators. So to better protect our residents and align towing fees from private and public locations, the police department has identified the need for the modification to the Vehicles and Traffic Chapter 336 of our code. Specifically, the addition of Section 12 will prevent unauthorized parking on private property while providing protections for our residents. This ordinance was also sent to the Lehigh County Department of Law and was advertised in the Parkland Press newspaper and is ready for adoption if the board is so inclined.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any board questions or comments on this ordinance? Are there any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt said towing from private property ordinance?
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second? A second from Commissioner Fellinger-Ricker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 7C, we have an ordinance of the Township of South Whitehall amending Chapter 304 Streets and Sidewalks of the codified ordinances of the Township to add a new Article 6 titled Street Vacations, establishing the procedure for vacation of a public street consistent with the Pennsylvania First Class Township Code, and further providing for severability, repealer, and an effective date. And again, I'd ask Tom Petrucci to please present.
Thank you. So recently, the township underwent the process to vacate a street, Orator Street specifically, and noted that we need to really streamline our processes to make it more clear and transparent for our residents and for township staff, that we all know exactly the processes and procedures to follow. So I want to mention that Jennifer Alderfer, Director of Legal Affairs, really spearheaded this ordinance with making sure it's in line with the state law and so forth. So summary of the key provisions. Application requirements, so it establishes a formal application process, including submission of a fee, escrow agreement, survey plan, meets and bounds description, list of adjoining property owners, and written confirmation from affected utility providers. Provides for an internal determination of application completeness by the township manager and a preliminary assessment by the Board of Commissioners as to whether the proposed vacation serves the public good, and that's after the escrow filing. And interdepartmental and agency review requires circulation of the application materials to township departments, township engineer, planning commission, and outside agencies as appropriate, with a defined 60-day review period. Public notice and hearing consistent with the First Class Township Code, board action and reporting consistent with the First Class Township Code, and then finally ordinance adoption consistent with the First Class Township Code. So again, this ordinance has been advertised, has been sent to the Lehigh County Department of Law, and is ready for adoption if the board is inclined.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any board questions or comments on this ordinance? Any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt said street vacation ordinance?
Motion.
A motion from Commissioner Fellinger-Ricker. Is there a second? A second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 8, resolutions. 8A, we have a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of South Whitehall, Lehigh County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, approving a separation agreement with Chief of Police Frank J. Lombardo, EDD. I do have a prepared statement on behalf of the township, the board, and the chief, but I would first ask Tom Petrucci to please present this agenda item.
Thank you. So before you for consideration this evening is a resolution approving a separation agreement between South Whitehall Township and former Chief of Police Frank J. Lombardo, as outlined in the resolution and the resignation letter submitted by Mr. Lombardo that was included in the meeting packet. Mr. Lombardo began his service as Chief of Police on March 5th, 2025. And his employment with the township concluded on February 27th, 2026. Mr. Lombardo tendered his resignation on February 16th, 2026. So the township and Mr. Lombardo have reached an agreement to resolve any matters related to his employment and separation from the township. And the resolution before you this evening authorizes the township manager to execute that agreement and carry out any actions required under it.
Thank you. Before I open it up for discussion, I do have a statement on behalf of the township, the board, and the chief. Chief Frank Lombardo has tendered his resignation from the South Whitehall Township Police Department effective February the 27th, 2026. He wishes to thank the Township Manager, the Board of Commissioners, the fire departments, the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office, and especially the officers for the opportunity to serve. He noted that the officers' accomplishments during his tenure were truly remarkable and a testament to their personal and professional excellence. Captain Steve Brown will assume command in his absence. On behalf of a grateful Board of Commissioners, I would like to extend our thanks and appreciation to Chief Lombardo for his service to the South Whitehall Township community and for the impact he left on this institution, particularly through the positive relationships he cultivated with our local mutual aid fire departments, neighboring police departments, and countywide agencies. We certainly wish Frank all the best in his future endeavors. As this agenda item is personnel related, the board will not have any further comment, except to note that with respect to any future decisions regarding the position of Chief of Police, under Article 14 of the First Class Township Code, as well as under Article 4 of the ordinances of this township, the authority to hire a police chief rests solely with the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. This time I would ask if there are any other board comments or from the public or online. Thank you, Chris. Is there a motion to approve the resolution approving a separation agreement with Chief of Police Frank J. Lombardo, EDD?
Motion.
A motion from Commissioner Kelly and a second from Commissioner Gronowski. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 8B, we have a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of South Whitehall Township, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, appointing Frank Petrucelli as chairperson of the South Whitehall Environmental Advisory Council. And I'd ask Tom Petrucci to please present this item.
Thank you. So under the guiding documents and statutes for any municipality that has a environmental advisory council, specifically Title 53, Chapter 23, Section 2323, it interestingly enough says that the governing body has to appoint the chair of said EAC, Environmental Council, Advisory Council. So the Environmental Advisory Council is currently chaired by Mr. Frank Petrucelli, and he was just recently reappointed. And the EAC would like Mr. Petrucelli to remain in that position. So I would seek a resolution approval this evening to effectuate that.
Thank you, Tom. I would note that Frank has served with distinction on the EAC now for some time, previously on some of our other environmental boards. He runs a very good meeting, having listened into some of the EAC meetings myself. So I want to thank him for his continued service and his willingness to serve as chairperson of that critical committee during this time. Are there any other board comments or questions on this matter? Any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt said resolution appointing Frank Petrucelli as chairperson of the South Whitehall Township Environmental Advisory Council? A motion from Commissioner Fellinger-Ricker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 8C, we have a resolution appointing David Melman as a member of the South Whitehall Township Zoning Hearing Board. We did recently have two resignations from the Zoning Hearing Board. The first was our longtime member and chairperson, Attorney Don Klein. So given that Mr. Melman did recently interview and was selected to serve as an alternate member of the board, I feel as though it is best to follow past practice and appoint our alternate member to the board in a full-time capacity. So is there any other board comments or questions on this appointment? Seeing none, any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt said resolution appointing David Melman as a member of the Township Zoning Hearing Board?
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Commissioner Johns, a second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8D, we have a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of South Whitehall Township, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the township manager to execute a holding tank maintenance and removal security agreement with K. Walbert LLC for the Ridge Farms Phase 1B land development project. I would ask the township manager, Tom Petrucci, to please present.
Thank you. So K. Walbert LLC is the developer and owner of the property located at 1802 North Cedar Crest Boulevard. This is part of the Ridge Farms Phase 1B land development project. So as part of that project, the developer seeks to convert an existing septic tank on the property into a holding tank until connection to the public sewer system is completed. This is contemplated under Act 537, and it is permitted. But then to ensure proper maintenance and eventual removal of the holding tank and to ensure compliance with relevant local and state ordinances and regulation, the township has prepared a holding tank maintenance and removal security agreement between the developer and the township. So just some key elements of the agreement: the developer must maintain and remove the holding tank in compliance with township ordinances in the direction of the township sewage enforcement officer, as well as applicable DEP requirements. The developer has agreed to provide an irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of $34,125, representing estimated pumping costs for 3+ years, which would be the term of the permit as well. So again, the agreement term is 3 years with a requirement for a new agreement, an updated security amount if the holding tank is needed beyond that period, and that 3-year period is consistent with the permit period. Developer must provide quarterly water bills and pumping receipts to the township SEO. The township may draw upon the escrow into security if the developer fails to pump the tank as required, and the developer must replenish the security to maintain the full amount. I did speak with the legal representative of the developer, attorney Lisa Pereira, today, and that letter of credit is forthcoming as well. So the developer is responsible for all recording fees, township engineering fees, and township legal fees associated with the agreement, and this would be a covenant running with the land until released by the township.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for your work and certainly our staff's work as well. Are there any other board questions or comments on this agenda item? Any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt said resolution authorizing the township manager to execute a holding tank maintenance and removal security agreement with K. Walbert LLC for the Ridge Farms Phase 1B land development project? A motion from Commissioner Johns. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 8E, we have a resolution granting preliminary final approval to a major plan entitled PPL Corporation Lehigh Service Center. And I'd like to ask our Director of Planning, Dave Manhart, to please present.
Yes, so this was an application to further develop the property located at 827 Houseman Road. It's a 40-acre tract. Plan proposes new walkways, concrete sidewalks, a patio, all internal to the site. The property served by Public Water and Sewer, zoned industrial commercial 1. PPL Corporation is the owner. Feditz and Martin are associates as the applicant. The project was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at the October 9th, 2025 meeting. There was essentially one lingering issue that the Planning Commission recommended the applicant work with staff. They came in with a request for a waiver or deferral for sidewalks on Houseman Road heading north towards 22. The desire of the Planning Commission was to have a sidewalk that connects the main employee area to the southerly driveway that would then cross over to the sidewalk and eventually get into the Kmart shopping center. I forget which one it's called over there. So the applicant has submitted revised plans since that Planning Commission meeting. Township engineers reviewed it, staff's reviewed it, and we find that acceptable. So if they're shown on the plans, the waiver has been slightly modified. The deferral has been slightly modified to only apply to north of the driveway. So that's reflected in the resolution. There were, I believe it was 3 other waivers, which are common drafting waivers, topo and some other drafting waivers. Conditions, the first condition is our typical improvements agreement. The next 2 through, and this is in the draft resolution. Conditions 2 through 5 are reviews, consistency, as we kind of talked about in the earlier comments. These are the professional reviews. 6 through 8 are advisory board comments that the applicant shall be addressed. 9 and 10 are outside agency. 11, 12 are community development comments. 13, 14 are just general comments. 15 is the 12-month requirement that we see quite a bit. 16, 17, and the remainder are kind of the general boilerplate conditions. With that, we can hand it over to Tony, and I believe the applicant is here to answer any questions.
Excellent. Again, before I open up to board questions, if our township engineer, Tony Talleride, has any further comments on this matter.
No, this was it was a relatively small project. Our comments are, like Dave said, a handful of drafting items, only 6 comments. So at this point, we can recommend approval with the waivers.
Excellent. Thank you. And the applicant is here, you said, Dave? Any further comment from the applicant or no? Thank you, gentlemen. Any other further board questions or comments on this matter? Any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve said resolution granting preliminary final approval to a major plan entitled PPL Corporation Lehigh Service Center? Motion from Commissioner Johns. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 9, motions. 9A, we have a motion to approve improvements, security release certification number 2 for a total release amount of $427,241.10 for the Potta Property LLC at 1670 Church Road, and that's 2022-104. And I would ask again, Director of Planning, Dave Manhart, to please present.
Yes, so this is the second security reduction for the project located at 1670 Church Road. It's the project right across from PJ's. It's essentially improvements to the existing commercial building, additional parking lot, stormwater, some frontage improvements. The applicant has completed a significant portion of the improvements. They're getting near the end, and this is common for applicants to ask for reductions throughout the process. So this is just another one of those reductions. There still would remain $266,000 to complete the improvements. Tony's here to answer add some additional commentary on the status of the project.
Any further comments, Tony?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're actually closing in on a final inspection. We released mostly some of the roadway and right-of-way restoration items that they've completed. So admin items, some spare irrigation is what's left. A little comfortable with the number remaining, and we recommend this release.
Thank you, Tony. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the improvement security release certification number 2 for a total release amount of $427,241.10 for Potta Property LLC, 1670 Church Road, 2022-104?
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Gronowski. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 9B, we have a motion to approve improvement security release certification number 7 for a total release amount of $297,845.73 for the Hills at Winchester. And again, I would ask Dave Manhart to please present.
So this is another security release. This is probably the second to last release. The project is mostly finished. It's out of maintenance. There's a few lingering issues, but it's pretty straightforward. This was prepared by the alternate engineer, so the engineer is not present to answer any questions. But if you have any, I can answer or can certainly answer.
I certainly don't have any questions. Are there any questions from other members of the board on this item? Or from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve improvement security release certification number 7 for a total release amount of $297,845.73 for the Hills at Winchester? Motion from Commissioner Johns. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 9C, we have a motion requesting permission to proceed with advertising to rebid the road building materials bid number 2026-04. And I'd like to ask Director of Township Operations, Herb Bender, to please present.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just respectfully asking to rebid the road building materials. We did advertise it like we were supposed to by law, and we received 0 bids. So we're asking to rebid it now. I think some of the confusion might have been we had the milling and the road building materials out at the same time, so there might have been a little mix up there. So all we're asking is just to re-advertise and rebid it. That's all.
Thank you, Herb. Are there any board comments or questions on this motion? Any from the public or online? Seeing none, is there a motion to request permission to proceed with advertising to rebid the road building materials bid 2026-04? A motion from Commissioner Fellinger-Ricker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 10, correspondence and information items. 10A, boards and commissions, informational items and vacancies. I'd like to ask Township Manager Tom Petrucci to please review this item.
Thank you. So upcoming meetings and events with details posted on the Township website are as follows. So tomorrow, Thursday, March 5th, 7 p.m. is the zoning hearing board. There's a lot of public interest in that application. I want to mention that it is streamed online. It's not an interactive streaming, though. You can watch it from the comfort of your home as well, but you just can't interact as part of that hearing. Monday, March 9th, 7 p.m., we have Parks and Recreation Board. Tuesday, March 10th, 6 p.m. is Crime Watch meeting. Thursday, March 12th, 7 p.m. is Planning Commission meeting. And then Wednesday, March 18th, 7 p.m., Board of Commissioners. I want to mention vacancies and boards and commissions. So we have 2 alternate vacancies on the Civil Service Commission. And after the appointment of another zoning hearing member tonight, we still have 1 regular member vacancy and 3 alternate vacancies. So anyone who's interested in that, please submit an application. We are currently seeking applications.
Thank you, Tom. Agenda item 11, courtesy of the floor. This is the second opportunity for members of the public to offer comment on any non-agenda items. Are there any members present who wish to address the board? Are there any online, Chris? Thank you. Moving on, we will go to agenda item 12. I do need a motion to authorize the payment of our invoices and disbursements. Is there a motion? A motion from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Granovsky. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. At this time, I would seek from the board a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Fellinger-Ricker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.